Alright, we're back. Alright, so this one, it's called In the Void. And it was stemmed from, I was hanging out with my buddy, Greg, and he's mixed. He's half, his mom's white and his dad's black. And at the time, it was, this was 2020, so this would have been right after COVID, which right after COVID, the Black Lives Matter movement was going on. So I remember I was hanging out with him, and he was just really, really frustrated about it, and I just felt like I needed to do a page about it, and so this was my little page about that, and what I had to say about it was In the Void. Inspirational, meditational, educational, unrelatable, undebatable, unhateable, highly valuable, highly capable. We are all sensational. This page is called Reverence, which is a word I don't even remember what it means, honestly. Sometimes I just look up big words, I don't even know what they mean. But you paint a picture of peaceful chaos. And this was kind of another one that sort of played off of that. I honestly kind of don't like reverence as much. I feel like that one could have went somewhere else. I feel like it didn't flow as good as I wanted it to. I was trying to have some sort of cohesiveness within this whole book, and I don't know, I get better at it in my next couple books, I think, but here we are. You're not missing out on much. And I think that was also, I felt bad that I didn't go to the protests. I just felt like, maybe this is kind of controversial to say, but I felt like, hear me out for a second. I feel like the riots and things are kind of, they shouldn't be, but in the sense that racism shouldn't be a thing to begin with, so the rioting really shouldn't be also, and so that was just sort of what I was trying to express to people, and I think that's a positive thing that applies there. And here we are in an honest day's work. This page, oh man, would you get mad if I did what I wanted? It's my moral compass. This was sort of a stream of thoughts, I think, at this point. I remember I was going for a run, and I was just, thinking of little ideas in my head. And this one is for the foreseeable future, which I don't foresee. Oh, wait, yeah, I do. Is the gold slipping through your fingers or weighing you down? See, right now it's kind of weighing me down, but at the time it was kind of slipping through my fingers, and I was really trying to capture some of it. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, too, is I'm trying to not let so much of that slip through my fingers and try to get myself together and do what I can with my life, I'm an artist, and maybe some people might think that that's a selfish endeavor, but I think there's things to be said that need to be said, otherwise future generations are not going to be, how do I say, they're not going to be as understanding. They're going to dismiss things like the Beatles, for instance. I'm listening to a Beatles record. I don't think that the future generations are going to like the Beatles as much as I did. And I think there's something to be said about that. Each generation kind of learns from the last generation and the generations before them and things like that. And things start to kind of fade away over time, and society kind of moves on from that. And now that we're in this technology age, it's kind of moving away from things like vinyl, perhaps. Like, people are more into Spotify and stuff. So I guess I'm just trying to find some sort of middle ground with that. Some sort of golden ground, I suppose I should say. And here we are, the next page. Unattached. You see, I was running unattached, and that's kind of what that's about. Self-explanatory. trust rust, ironing things in and out. And so this is kind of thinking through your ideas is kind of what that means, and trusting the rust of it. You know, if you leave it out in the rain and if it rusts, you know, that's good. That's what it's supposed to do. You know, it's supposed to gain age. It's supposed to gain that rust. That rust is wisdom. You see, you must breathe, but that oxygen is what causes that rust in the first place. You see what I mean? You have to live your life before it completely rusts away. And that's kind of my thought process there, which I think this one in particular is one where I would have had to explain that. And I think it is open for interpretation, so I think that is good to where people can make their own thoughts of it. You know, all of this is completely open for interpretation in that sense. So yeah, that's what that's kind of about. And here's another one about love again. I had to move on. I'm a social disconnect. I'm undistracted. Oh, looks like I had a little bookmark in here. Yeah, this is kind of, I don't know where I was at with this page, but it's just a bunch of words that kind of describe where I was at the time. Seeking pussy. Fuck it. Focus in your mind. You must focus. I'm unfulfilled. Accountable. Or hold yourself accountable. I'm trying. Old ways. I'm bored. I must protect. I must forget. I don't even know what that says. Yeah, I don't know. In this first one, it's kind of muddy. Where my thinking, it's just kind of, you know, it's my first attempt at this, so some of it isn't as accurate as I would want it to be. But this one I feel like is good, because I'm just going with it, you know? And that's, again, it just speaks for itself. It's more or less from nothing. And this one's just sort of being original, you know, and encouraging artists to be original and not just copying other people's stuff, you know what I mean? And I think that is a good perspective for people to start at and to achieve. And I think it's really easy to get caught up in other people's ideas. Like, for instance, like the Beatles, they were so good and they were covered so much ground that it just doesn't seem possible to cover more ground and like gain more. But if you can find nothing, if you can find something like that in meditation or whatever, that's where you find your own things. That's where you find that originality, and that's more or less what that's about. And I was more or less from nothing as well. I'm not rich, I'm not poor necessarily, but I never had help with college. I've got my own college debt that I'm paying for, and I've been broke more or less from nothing. I mean, I'm starting from scratch pretty much. I have no money at all. I had $3 up until this last Friday, but yeah, I was living off nothing, and I'm 25 years old. That's pathetic. But, you know, come back 5 years from now, see where I am. In another 5 years, in another 5 years. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Ooh. To find love depending on luck. See, this one's kind of about Tinder, I think. And just, hopefully they also match with you, you know? Or hopefully they also swiped right. And, you know, there's a bit of luck that plays into that, I think, for sure. I mean, of course it's, you know, you're basing it off attractions and things like that. And, you know, you have mutual... What am I trying to say? You have things that you both like. I don't know. I don't have a girlfriend, so who am I to say? Nonetheless, speaks for itself. Healing is hard when you're not where you belong. in my parents' basement at the bar. I'm raising the bar, though. But I'm crushed. And this one was about a crush that I had like never before. Let's see where it goes. Hey, hold on, one at a time, please. One at a time, please. Don't care so much. You're smudging my mind makeup. To maintain the unknown. What's done is done. Judging indecisions. I think this one's about being in a relationship, but from the perspective of someone who's not in a relationship. And like imagining myself being in a lasting relationship and kind of what that's about and what the struggle of kind of achieving a balance between you and yours. You know, I care too much. I care too much about stuff as an artist, and I think it was also kind of an ego death sort of thing. I think there's a lot of that in my art, is ego death, you'll find. Here we are. Feeling like everyone on Earth has suddenly vanished. A transient free spirit with nothing better to do. Saving up. Inheritance. Here's a heavy one. Over time, you just might find pennies increase in value because you can't split a penny. Or you'll understand you can share nothing at all. See, that one's kind of about my grandma Bernie here, who, let me flip this camera around. If you can see her chilling right there up in that. That's her right there. It's kind of fuzzy, but yeah, the only inheritance that I've ever received as of this point in my life at age 25 is actually from my grandma Bernadette, Grandma Bernie, as everyone called her. She gave me a bunch of pennies, a bunch of wheat pennies, because I used to collect coins and things like that, and she knew that, so they let me have her collection of wheat pennies. And so that's what that is coming from. And I realized as an artist, I'm going to have a lot of things that people are going to want to inherit from me. And so I've seen in a lot of other people and a lot of cousins and things that I have that they really just want the money. They really just want this and that, and they want so much stuff, and they forget that, like, do you love that person? Do you really respect that person? You shouldn't be all about receiving their stuff versus, your own happiness. It's fucked up. It's fucked up shit. I've seen that firsthand, and I'm glad that I've got to learn from other people's mistakes in doing that, and, I think I just feel really heavy pressure on that just because, again, being an artist, I have so many things that are worth way more money than I can put on. That being said, that's a really, really narcissistic thing to say, I understand. But I know that a lot of these things are worth a lot of money, and, people want to buy them for like $100 or something. It's like, no, I spent months and months and months on that. I should really sell that for like $1 million fucking dollars, but you don't have $1 million, do ya? Do ya? Eye-opening, isn't it? Yeah. How much work, how much heart and soul someone puts into something, and for somebody to think, oh, it's only worth $100 or something, like, no. It's fucked up. Priceless, really. And so that's what that's about. I'll show you wasted potential. Forget it. Write it down. Oh, here we are. Flooded Heart. This one is about my Aunt Bonnie, who had passed away while I was making this book, and so I wanted to dedicate a page to her. It was right around COVID when she had passed away, and I think everyone thought it was COVID, but it ended up being cancer, and she had what had finally got her, and actually a lot of other people in my family as well. My grandpa died the same exact way. They had a flooded heart. And so that's just something that also kind of plays along with that inheritance thing. So take that as you will. And so I just felt like that's something that I personally needed to do, that was from me and from nobody else. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and read some of these things that I wrote down here about that. Bring it up if you don't want it. I don't know what that means. If you don't give a doggone about it. See, okay, I think I get it. See, my Aunt Bonnie, she didn't really care that much about my art and stuff. She was always like, oh, get a haircut, you hippie, you know. She was always giving me tough love like that, but she also kind of had like a hint of, hey, I love you, even though I really wish you would get a haircut, you know. Like, that's one thing that I really respected a lot about her, is like, you know, she was always kind of mean to me about that, but like, it was cool that we had that respect. Like, she could be mean to me, but at the same time, like, we knew like the underlying, you know, what was to be said there, the unspoken love, you know. So something to look forward to. Mercy me. Which actually, that's interesting, because I work at Mount Mercy now. I wrote that 2 years ago, so that's interesting that unfolded that way. Tomatoes in the garden. See, tomatoes help your heart. She always used to take our tomatoes. But, you know, that's just something that we're going to remember Aunt Bonnie for, is she would always come over and take our tomatoes. You know, it was just a fond little memory that we had. You know, tomatoes are built to last. And home is where the heart is. Got the same old mistakes. Superman. Wait. See, Breathe, that's the Pink Floyd song. Wait, that's a Beatles song. Superman, that's an REM song. They're all songs that have heart references in them. I recommend just going and listening to those yourself. Alright, and then here's another one that kind of was stemmed from my Aunt Bonnie as well. Everybody's weird. See, exactly, like, it was kind of that same thing, like, you know, hey, everybody's weird. Stop telling me to get a haircut. You know? It's like, come on, Aunt Bonnie. Like, stop giving me shit. Just because I got long hair. Alright. And here we go. Here's some sort of cohesiveness that I achieved. Deep down inside. Truth buried in love. I can't read it. Fullest potential. What it takes is all your mistakes and all your fullest potential. What if? I know I'm not perfect. I'm bottled up. The scars heal permanently. Regret for a reason. I'm not really exactly sure where I was at the time, but if you're ever in a time where you're deep down inside, that's when the truth is buried in love. No wonder. This one's just kind of about wondering what happens on the other side, wondering what happens when you die, you know, and I was just kind of having a couple of thoughts about that at that certain time, and I guess this is what it's about, and, you know, and I guess it kind of also is sort of reflecting back on wondering like, no wonder he's so weird or whatever, you know, it's kind of double entendre in that. But it's also knowing that, you know, no wonder. I got too far ahead of myself and left behind who I wanted to be. Yep. This one is about Kurt Cobain, and also, who's the bassist for the Sex Pistols? Sid. Yeah. Sid and Nancy and Kurt and Courtney. It's kind of that same, like, terrible relationship thing, but I was listening to something about Sid and Nancy, and I just heard some guy said something about having an inflamed fantasy, like it was the unknowingness about it. You see, Kurt Cobain specifically is what this is about. Is okay. So it says your fantasy is inflamed because you'll never know the truth. And the thing is like, I have a love for Nirvana, but I also am like deeply invested in it. And I know a lot of other people are as well. And just in his death, in Kurt Cobain's death alone, because nobody really knows what happened, and so you scratch and scratch at that door, but never ever really get anywhere. You can keep scratching until you die, but you're never actually going to understand what actually happened to Kurt. Nobody knows. And I think that kind of adds to their fame, and that adds to the legend and the mystique of it. And it almost makes me think that it was all set up in a way, in that way on purpose, so that nobody would really know what happened, which, personally, if you want to know my real opinion, the more I look into it, the more I sort of understand that I think Kurt did actually shoot himself. Despite all the clear fuckery going on around that involving Courtney, she's still alive, she's still living, she lived her whole life at this point, and if she killed him, then there's no justice there at this point. She already lived her whole life, it's over, you know? I mean, she didn't live her whole life yet, but you know what I mean? At this point, it's too far gone for anybody to really do anything about it, and I think there's something about that there that's very, very interesting and very protected, and I think it should be. And, you know, I think love can only go so far, and Nirvana can only be reached so far. So, here's the end of this little bit again. I'm going to start up another one here.